$300 a month becomes $1 million. Say that sentence out loud to almost anyone and watch their face. It sounds like the kind of thing printed on a flyer for a seminar that ends with someone trying to sell you a course. It sounds fake specifically because it sounds too simple, and we've all been trained to distrust anything financial that doesn't come wrapped in jargon, risk, or a catch. So here's the promise for this video. I'm going to show you the actual math, line by line, with real numbers and real assumptions. And by the end you'll understand exactly why this sentence is true, why almost nobody benefits from it anyway, and what it would actually require of you personally. No catch, just the math nobody believes until they've watched someone do it slowly enough to trust it. Here's the number that makes this work, and it's the most boring number in all of personal finance, 7%. That's the long-run average annual return of a diversified stock market index fund, after accounting for the bumps, crashes, and recoveries that happen along the way. Not a single year looks like 7%. Some years it's up 25%. Some years it's down 18%. But stretched across decades, the long-run average has hovered right around that number, give or take, for about a century of market history. 7% doesn't feel like a headline. It feels like the kind of number you'd find in a textbook footnote. That's exactly the point. The math that actually builds wealth has never been exciting. And that's precisely why most people walk past it. Now watch what that boring number actually does when you give it time. $300 a month, invested every single month into a diversified index fund earning that 7% average, left completely alone, untouched, unpanicked over, for 35 years, grows to approximately $544,000. Stretch that same habit to 40 years and it crosses $790,000. Stretch it to 45 years, and you're sitting at roughly $1.15 million. The total amount you actually contributed out of your own pocket across those 45 years is $162,000. Everything past that, nearly $1 million of it, was not money you saved. It was money the market grew on your behalf while you did something else with your life entirely. Let that contribution number sit for a second because it's the part people skip past too quickly. $162,000 of your own money becomes over $1.15 million. That's not a 10% return. That's not even a 100% return. That is your money multiplying by a factor of roughly 7, simply by existing inside the market long enough for time to do what time does. Nobody had to pick the right stock. Nobody had to time a crash. Nobody had to outsmart anyone. The money just had to sit there and not get pulled out. So why doesn't this feel believable when you first hear it? Because of a property of compounding that almost nobody intuitively understands. It is aggressively front-loaded with boredom and back-loaded with results. For the first 15 to 20 years of that 45-year stretch, the account barely looks like it's doing anything. At year 10, that $300 a month habit has produced roughly $52,000. At year 20, it's grown to around $147,000. Those numbers feel modest. They feel like the kind of progress that makes you wonder if you're doing this right, if maybe there's a faster way, if maybe this whole boring approach is a waste of your most productive years. And then something happens in the back half of the timeline that almost nobody sees coming until they've lived through it. Between year 35 and year 45, that same account grows by more than $600,000, more than the entire value of the account at year 35 combined. The growth doesn't arrive evenly. It arrives almost entirely at the end, after decades of looking unremarkable, which is exactly the stretch where most people have already quit. This is the part of the math that deserves a name, because it's the actual reason this sentence sounds unbelievable to most people. Call it the boring decade. Every long-term compounding outcome has one, a 10 to 20-year stretch in the middle where the account is growing steadily but invisibly, where the monthly statement looks almost identical to the one from 6 months ago, and where the entire emotional experience of investing is indistinguishable from doing nothing at all. The boring decade is not a sign that the plan is failing. The boring decade is the plan working exactly as designed, at the exact moment it's hardest to believe that. Now let's address the part of this that should actually bother you, because pretending this math applies equally to everyone would be dishonest, and dishonest is not what this channel does. That 7% figure is a long-run average, not a guarantee. There have been real 10-year stretches in market history where returns were flat or negative for the entire decade. If one of those stretches happens to land during your specific 35 to 45-year window, your actual number could come in meaningfully lower than the example above. There's also inflation to account for. A $40 years from now will not buy what a dollar buys today, and a portion of that $1.15 million is really just the market keeping pace with rising prices rather than making you genuinely richer. After accounting for typical long-run inflation, that $1.15 million in future dollars might carry something closer to $350,000 to $400,000 of today's actual purchasing power. Still life-changing. Not quite as dramatic as the headline number makes it sound. And there's a third honest complication that almost never gets mentioned in videos like this one: sequence of returns risk. The order in which good and bad years happen to you matters enormously, especially near the end of the timeline. A severe market drop in year 44 of a 45-year plan hurts you far more than the identical drop would have hurt you in year 4, simply because there's so much more money exposed to the loss by that point. This is precisely why the conventional advice to gradually shift a portion of your portfolio toward more stable assets as you approach the point where you'll actually need the money isn't some boring bonus tip. It's a direct response to this specific risk, and skipping it is one of the more common ways people accidentally undo decades of disciplined investing in the final stretch. None of that changes the core math. It just means the real number you'll personally experience will land somewhere in a range rather than hitting one precise figure, and anyone who tells you with total certainty exactly what your account will be worth in 2061 is selling you confidence they don't actually have. The math is real. The certainty some people attach to it is not. So let's talk about the actual obstacle, because it was never really the math. It was always the $300. For a lot of people hearing this, $300 a month sounds like a number from a different financial life entirely, something for people who already have room in their budget that you simply don't have. So let's break down where $300 a month has actually come from for people who've made this work, because in most cases, it wasn't a raise. It was a redirect. The average new car payment in recent years has run somewhere around $725 to $775 a month. A car that's 3 or 4 years old, paid for in cash or financed briefly and aggressively, can often run $250 to $400 less a month than that same buyer's new car alternative. That gap alone, redirected instead of spent, covers the entire $300 a month with room left over. A household carrying a revolving credit card balance at 20% or more interest is often paying $100 to $300 a month in interest charges alone on debt that produces nothing in return. Clearing that balance and redirecting the same monthly payment toward investing instead of interest is functionally the same $300, just moving from one direction to the opposite one. A meaningful share of households are also paying for subscriptions, streaming services, unused memberships, and recurring charges they've genuinely forgotten exist, often totaling $100 to $200 a month once someone actually goes line by line through a bank statement. None of this means $300 a month is universally easy to find. For some households, genuinely, it isn't there to redirect, and no amount of subscription auditing changes that reality. But for a meaningful number of people watching a video like this one, the $300 already exists somewhere in the monthly budget. It's just currently flowing toward a car payment, an interest charge, or a forgotten recurring fee instead of toward the boring decade that eventually pays for itself 7 times over. Here's a version of this that makes the trade-off concrete. Take a household carrying a $6,000 credit card balance at 22% interest, making only minimum payments. Roughly $110 a month of every payment on that balance is pure interest, money that vanishes the instant it's paid, building nothing. Clear that balance over time and redirect the same $110 plus a modest additional $190 a month most households can find somewhere in discretionary spending once they actually look, and you've assembled the $300 without touching rent, groceries, or anything resembling a real sacrifice. The same $300 that was quietly funding a credit card company's profits for years instead becomes the engine behind a 7-figure outcome 3 or 4 decades later. The dollars didn't change. Their direction did. There's one more piece of the math worth showing, because it answers the most common objection of all: I'm starting too late for this to matter. Take the exact same $300 a month, but start at age 40 instead of age 25, leaving only 25 years instead of 45 until a typical retirement age. At that same 7% average return, 25 years of $300 a month grows to approximately $243,000. That's a real, meaningful sum. It is also dramatically smaller than the $1.15 million produced by starting 15 years earlier, despite contributing a similar amount each month. The 20 extra years at the front of the timeline did roughly 5 times more work than the dollars themselves did. This is the part of the math that should create urgency rather than discouragement. Starting at 40 instead of 25 doesn't ruin the plan. It just means the boring decade arrives later and produces less by the time it's done, which makes today, whatever today happens to be for you, the best possible day to start, precisely because every day waited is a day permanently removed from the front of that curve. So here is the full shape of the claim this video opened with, now fully shown rather than just stated. $300 a month, redirected from somewhere it's currently doing nothing or actively costing you, invested into a diversified index fund, left alone through roughly 2 decades of looking like nothing is happening, can realistically grow into 7 figures over a working lifetime. The number isn't a trick. The mechanism isn't a secret. The reason it sounds unbelievable is that the entire process is engineered to feel like a failure for the first half of its existence and like a miracle for the second half, and almost nobody has the patience to sit through the part that feels like a failure long enough to reach the part that doesn't. That's the whole boring decade, in every direction. It's boring while you're earning it. It's boring to explain. It's even boring to believe, because believing it requires trusting a process that offers you no proof for years at a time. But the math holds whether you trust it or not, and the only real decision left is whether the next $300 in your account goes towards something that disappears by next month, or toward the only kind of boring that eventually stops being boring at all.